Blitz!
I'm Travis Downey, that's Adam Rosenberg, and this is the Northwest Florida Daily News Prep Football Blitz Kickoff Classic edition. This Thursday and Friday, high school football in the area gets started, and with that, we're going to get you set for those games. Starting with Thursday's games, and I guess we'll begin with Crestview. They're going on the road to Gulf Breeze. Gulf Breeze is a team that didn't win a single game last year. You've been to Crestview. What's the camp been like over there?
Well, Coach Brunson said this might be the strongest group he's ever had. And that's saying something because he told me, that's kind of his hallmark, is getting guys strong in the weight room, getting them ready to play good defense. And he thinks this group might be the strongest, most physical he's ever had. And, that's something I'm pretty interested to see, if they're just going to go out there and be able to push what should be a weaker Gulf Breeze team, right, be able to push them around at the line of scrimmage and make some plays with their strength. Yeah,
they're going to be missing Chris Pickett, graduated a year ago. He was their dynamo on offense, but with Seiler and some of the pieces in there, Alan Caldwell, anxious to see what Crestview has in store this year and what could be a very exciting District 2 4A race. Kind of shifting gears, going to a smaller classified school, Walton, also on the road. They're going to be without Craig Darity, a young man who passed away this offseason, but they return 19 seniors, Liam Miller, Corliss Stone, Dion Lee. It's a really impressive group of seniors that they have. I'm anxious to see how they come out. They're talking district title or bust, so I'm anxious to see how they play tonight. What about you?
Well, Coach Jankowski, I talked to him yesterday on the phone, and he said basically that there are still some position battles that have not been settled yet. They're still kind of waiting to see if they're going to do a running back by committee or if someone's going to go ahead and, as he said, grab the bull by the horns. Right. So he said there's some position battles that could be settled on the field. And there's also, they want to see how the guys, just like every other coach, they want to see how they react to hitting someone with a different color jersey on. Right.
Trey Williams, the running back, really hope he has a big preseason game for them because he could be the linchpin to that offense.
And the other game on Thursday is Fort Walton Beach traveling to Rutherford out in Panama City. Fort Walton Beach, they had to kind of watch as Niceville took all the glory last year in the district. This year, I think Coach Owens is trying to hide the confidence that he has a little bit. He doesn't want to seem like he's too excited about this group, but I think he is. And there's pretty good reason to be. I mean, they've got Robert Willis, they've got Sean Lynn, they've got Dominique Smith, they've got DeAndres Mount. That defense alone is something that I'm really excited to see how they perform because, they had 3 dandy dozen players on that defense, plus some more talent. They're going to be breaking in a new quarterback with some big shoes to fill, but he got some playing time last year when Luke Barnes went down, and that's Ryan Thompson, the junior. And Coach Owens is pretty excited about his ability to make plays with his feet and with his arm.
Yeah, then we move into Friday's games. South Walton on the road at Weehawken. Weewa, a team they should be able to beat, but looking more specifically at South Walton, they lost some key cogs from last year's team, which is another successful season for them. So this team, it kind of becomes Jay Gatto's team. He's a hard-nosed kid, really good running back. Interested to see how he grabs the bull by the horns, as the coaches like to say. But you've been to South Walton too. What kind of sticks out with you?
Well, Coach Barron, he's confident in his group, but you could tell he's worried about the depth of that team, and as most small school coaches are.
Sure.
He pointed out repeatedly how, if this guy gets hurt, there goes our starting linebacker, punter, kick returner. So one guy probably has 3 different big roles on that team. So basically what he wants to see probably on Friday is to see how the depth stacks up behind those guys that he knows he can count on.
Right, depth. Very little there, those small schools. Another game on Friday, Milton at Choctaw. Choctaw is a school, you look at what they've done the past 2 years. They've taken that proverbial next step each time. This season, it's district title that they're kind of aiming for once again. But they're wanting to come out swinging. That seems to be the motto with this team this year. They've started slowly each of the past 2 seasons. So interested to see how in that first half with those first stringers out, what kind of tempo they're able to establish early on.
Yeah, and it just seems like from hearing all the talk, they seem to be a program that's inching its way towards where they want to be, and it just seems like they made a step last year. And in order to keep that going, they're going to have to make the playoffs again this year and maybe even go around further than they did last year. So I'm anxious to see if they're going in the right direction or if last year was kind of a blip on the radar kind of thing.
Yeah, and another program hoping that they're moving forward with each season is Navarre. And they're going to be hosting Pace on Friday night. Pace is a team that won 6 games last year. Richard Carrion, really good running back. He's back in the fold for them. And with Navarre, when you go and you speak with Chad Lashley, it seems like he thinks, and that coaching staff believes, this could be one of the more talented teams they've had here recently.
Well, you know, I went to the spring game, and it seems like ages ago, but their starters outplayed Pensacola Catholic starters, and Pensacola Catholic's a pretty good program.
Yep.
You know, they lost the game in the second half with their reserves, so maybe there's some depth issues there. But the ones and twos on the depth chart seem to be, you know, in position to make that Raiders team go.
Mm-hmm. Jay at Baker, another game on Friday night over at Baker. Baker, of course, coming off a winless season last season. They think they got more weapons to surround Veda Moore, who's a real dynamic player on offense. Logan Wagner, one of those guys. But with Baker, you just hope that this season they can kind of bring an end to that losing streak.
Well, yeah, I was at practice, you know, a couple weeks ago, and they're really enthusiastic. They don't seem like a winless team from a year ago, and that's something that stood out to me. The way they were attacking their drills, the way the coaches were getting after it, it seemed like they expected to win, and that's something, you know, Veda Moore, saw him in the spring game as well. He's an outstanding talent, and he can make some things go. But another school with depth issues. They're small. You know, all the small schools have the same problems, so we'll see how that goes.
Right. Sticking with the smaller schools, Freeport at Bluntstown. Freeport, just a miraculous season last year. Cole Weeks, Nathan Hendrickson. You just go down the list with some of the big players that aren't there this year. So Jim Anderson takes his crew on the road. Nick Ellington is going to have to be Mr. Do-It-All for Freeport this season, don't you think?
Well, he was in their spring game. You know, when you go to the practice, a Freeport practice, if you don't know who Nick Ellington is, you could probably figure out who he is just by knowing that he's the most athletic player on the team. Look for the tallest guy, the biggest guy, and the guy that's making the most plays, and that's him. And, you know, he's going to have to be that do-it-all guy, and they've got some pieces behind him, some young guys trying to make a name for themselves after those talented guys left last year. But like you said, it's Nick Ellington's team.
And at least to start off with, maybe some guys can come up as the season progresses. Lastly, Washington at Niceville. Niceville, of course, everyone knows what they've lost, what they have coming back. For me, you know, probably going to be at this game, covering this game for the paper. The one thing I'm anxious to see is just how this defense kind of comes together, facing someone other than, you know, their own team.
Well, one starter back, I mean, that's tough. No matter what the talent level is, there's not going to be the same comfort levels if you have 5 or 6 guys back on that defense. But obviously they're a talented program. They have been for years. Last year was obviously, you know, a little different with having Cody Williams and Roy Finch. But, you know, I think they're probably one of the hungriest teams out there to prove that last year wasn't a fluke and that they weren't a team made up of 2 players. Niceville and all those other teams are going to look to make those first steps towards establishing an identity for this season, Thursday and Friday with the kickoff classics. And then next week they'll lace it up for real and kick off the real season. So thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll see you again next week.